Welcome to Every New Day, and this is ENDtv News. And today we talk about German Sozialstaat, or the social safety net, which faces its sharpest rethink in decades. With defense outlays surging and growth stalling, Berlin is testing whether it can arm up and keep the welfare model intact. Is Germany out of money? Or boxed in by its own rules? Let's break down what's changing and who's about to feel it. But first, a little history of the Sozialstaat, or the German social state. The roots of Germany's Sozialstaat, the social state or welfare state, go back to Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany. Germany became the first nation in the world to adopt an old age social insurance program in 1889. And this was designed by the Chancellor himself, Otto von Bismarck. His social legislation was a reaction to the social question triggered by the industrialization of the times. In the 1880s, while serving as Chancellor of the German Empire, Bismarck pushed through the first modern social insurance laws in the world. In 1883, the Health Insurance Act, or the Krankenversicherungsgesetz, the mandatory health insurance for workers. In 1884, the Accident Insurance Act, or the Unfallversicherungsgesetz, the workplace accident coverage. In 1889, the Old Age and Disability Insurance, Invaliditäts- und Altersversicherungsgesetz, or early pension system. Bismarck's motives were not purely humanitarian, though. He wanted to, of course, undercut the rising socialist movement, then the SPD, which is still today a major party in German politics, by showing the state could provide security, but also to tie workers' loyalty to the Kaiserreich, or the empire, as well as stabilize industrial capitalism by cushioning workers against extreme poverty. These measures established the foundation of the German model of social insurance and contributions shared by employers and employees, administered by public law corporations, which has remained the backbone of Germany's Sozialstaat today. What's Germany actually changing? Well, in 2025, Germany rewired parts of its fiscal rule book, the Schuldenbremse, the debt brake, to carve out exceptions for security and defense as the government moves to a long-term rearmament path. Defense outlays hit the NATO 2% benchmark and are set to keep climbing, with plans pointing toward a more or less 3.5% of GDP by 2029. This is an enormous shift. The welfare pivot. At the same time, Berlin is tightening parts of the social net. The government confirmed a Nullrunde, no increase, in Bürgergeld for 2025, and officials now say 2026 will also hold rates flat, alongside stricter sanctions for missed appointments. That's a real-term squeeze for low-income households if prices and rents keep nudging up. So is Germany out of money? Well, the short answer is constrained, but it's not broke. Out of money isn't quite right. You see, Germany's constraint is legal and political. The debt brake limits structural deficits. A 2023 court ruling killed an off-budget climate fund, forcing abrupt recuts. In 2025, lawmakers loosened rules only for security areas. Elsewhere, fiscal space is still tight, so consolidation shows up where it can, often in social and investment lines. Why the squeeze now? Well, there's three pressures which collide to create this squeeze. And the first of which is security. The ongoing conflict and war in Ukraine has reset Europe's defense posture. Germany is expanding the Bundeswehr, or the army, and preparing a new service model. Voluntary for now, but with infrastructure to ramp up quickly. Then that costs every year. The second point is demographics and health. Pensions and health spending keep rising with aging. And it's a given that, especially in the West and even in Germany, the population is getting older. Statutory health insurance ran deficits and faces record outlays. Care insurance contributions were hiked in 2025. And lastly, the third point being sluggish growth and industry strain. The government now expects stagnation in 2025. Export headwinds and energy price aftershocks weigh on industry. And this is no surprise given the current tariffs imposed through not only the US, but also the rising inflation, which have been primarily at the cost of the ongoing Ukraine conflict. Militarization versus the Sozialstaat, and what are the trade-offs? Well, because defense is partially exempted from the break, while most other items aren't, spending pressure shifts onto the rest of the budget. Politically, that translates into flat benefits here, stricter eligibility there, and delayed upgrades to civilian infrastructure, unless growth rebounds or the rules change again. The industrial policy tug-of-war. Germany is also chasing strategic industry. The EU okayed billions for a TSMC-led factory in Dresden, but the larger Intel Magdeburg project has wobbled amid cost overruns and delays, highlighting how expensive reindustrialization is when growth and budgets are tight. So who's most affected at home? Well, in short term, cash transfer recipients feel it first. Flat Bürgergeld into 2026 cuts purchasing power if essentials rise. Low and middle income workers face pressure via social contributions as healthcare costs mount. And seniors aren't spared either. Pension finances rely on large federal transfers, which are harder to expand under tight budgets. And as we've mentioned before, those who feel the brunt of all of this are usually those who are the lower to middle income bracket of the population. And significantly, the aging population too, the seniors. What to watch for next and closer? Well, what to watch for are these three levers. And these are in particular relating to the first being economic data, a growth turn which would ease choices. Further weakness forcing tougher trade-offs. Secondly, debt brake politics. Another reform beyond security. That's the fastest way to finance both guns and butter. And finally, defense build-out. If costs overshoot or recruitment lags, fiscal pressure rises again. So is the recalibrated Sozialstaat sustainable, or just austerity by another name? Well, as we've brought to your attention in previous videos on ENDtv, it seems that there is a significant trade-off here in relation to the shift towards militarization to bring in more jobs and to bring in more money, of course, whilst more money is being spent and invested towards the industrialization of the military. And this goes without saying that it's not only significant to Germany, but also the other greater powers of the EU, such as France as well. The EU's defense plan is pushing towards a military-industrial complex, and Germany is at the forefront of this. But of course, at first look, this may seem great and hopeful because this will show an influx of new jobs for lower to middle income workers, and it will also stabilize the economy to some degree. However, at the same time, you can't have a war industry without war and without conflict. That is the oil that greases the wheel. So what do the actual average European citizen, and let alone German citizen, think really about that in the long term? And finally, of course, this social safety net, or Sozialstaat, is not only a cultural and historical landmark, but also institution that is one of a kind and unique to Germany, which has truly really paved the way in the West for how to uphold a social safety net welfare state, but done in the correct manner that is coinciding alongside a balanced economy and open marketplace. These are things, of course, right now that Germany is struggling with, especially the marketplace and the economy. Thus, the shift towards defense, aka militarization. But it would be a shame if Germany lost this. Bismarck really paved the way and set the standard, something that is rather impressive and not seen in other countries where the social welfare state or the social safety net is somewhat of a nightmare. For instance, in the United States, or even in countries like the UK, where it's not perfect, it's more of a bureaucratic hell. So it goes without saying, I think it would be a tragedy to see this Sozialstaat be disintegrated, or at least even restricted and broken down significantly in favor of a more militarized state, which is something that I think most people in the past were concerned about with Germany. And in general, I think we should all be concerned about in terms for the EU. So what do you think? Put your comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe, it does help. And we appreciate if you share this video to anyone. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. This was ENDtv. You can use this as B-roll if you want. Well, there's these Invalidität, Krankenversicherungsgesetz, old age, I can't pronounce this stuff. Let me redo that. And stricter eligibility, I forgot the word now. Hold on, just keep running it. I'm done. I can't speak anymore.